How's it going, you beetroot munchers? And today we are going to be doing a bit of a fitness industry shag, marry, kill. Now, I put a question on my Instagram story asking for suggestions for people to rate in a sort of shag, marry, kill format, and I couldn't end up thinking of a kind of better way to word it, so we're just going for shag, marry, kill.
What the fuck did I just hear?
So I've got a bunch of your suggestions, and if you're just somebody who watches my videos on YouTube but doesn't follow me on Instagram, it's pretty pointless because I'm a lot more active on there and this is just like the side thing. So go on Instagram, follow the new page, get quality content daily, and obviously you get all the bonus stuff on here too. And you can obviously participate in the very thoughtful and philosophical questions like who in the fitness industry would I like to shag, marry and kill? So just to let you understand the meaning and context of each of the categories, shag is going to be someone who you can probably listen to for a little bit of advice, maybe not go all the way with, but you can definitely get nuggets from them and just use them for a little bit. Marry is going to be someone whose word that you can take is pretty much gospel, like myself, and you can just follow them, listen to most of everything they've got to say, and they're always going to be pretty accurate and they're not going to lead you astray. Just somebody who you can tie the knot with intellectual, physically.
Is she a retard?
And kill is somebody you should just avoid altogether because they just talk so much absolute shite. So hopefully that all makes sense, and we're going to start off with Dr. Mike Israetel. Now, I would comfortably marry Dr. Mike. I have been a little bit critical of his own sort of self-evaluation at times. However, I think generally when he's being impartial with his information and his knowledge, he is absolutely spot on. He is obviously a very science-based sort of guy, but I feel when he speaks, he can explain things in very layman's terms, which I really like, unlike some other people. And I agree with a lot of what he says about training. I certainly think on the whole, he's not going to give you any information that's going to be harmful to you. And he is obviously pretty honest about his PED use and stuff like that too. I think Dr. Mike is a good candidate for marrying. And another science bro to follow on with that is Jeff Nippard. Now, as you'll have probably seen before, I'm not a great lover of Jeff Nippard. I feel like he's the opposite to Mike Israetel, where he very much just gets bogged down in the science. He overcomplicates things, and I think that he doesn't say anything, again, that's particularly harmful, and I don't think a lot of his information is necessarily bad, but I do think that he just makes what could be a very simple explanation or procedure a lot more complicated. And then I think sometimes he does try and conflate things a little bit with science and such, when it's actually stuff that's very borderline common sense and it doesn't actually require the big mad in detail study or big lengthy video that he's made about it. For that reason, I think he's a comfortable shag. Again, not really my cup of tea, and if I were to shag him, he'd be the kind of guy that I would just like kind of get up next game morning and move pretty quickly because I don't want to keep just like having them chatting shite in my ear. Next one is Zedan Mutulu. Not got a clue who this guy is, so I looked him up.
It was at this point during the recording I realised it was absolutely pointless and just a waste of time me trying to give an opinion on somebody who I didn't know and then just doing a quick Google search to try and find out who they were. So if you suggested somebody that's not here, it's because I didn't know who they were or didn't know enough about them to form an opinion.
So next one's Eddie Hall, and if you'd asked me like maybe 6 years ago, I'd have said he'd probably be a marry. However, my opinion of him has so changed over time, and it's not even for like wanting to like him. Like, I've got a lot of respect for someone that goes and is the best in the world in their field, and he done exactly what he said he was going to do, which is win the world's strongest man and then retire. He called it ahead of time, but I think he's just becoming a total parody of himself, and he's a real prime example of why just because you're a successful athlete doesn't always necessarily mean that you're a successful coach. No, he's not like technically a coach, but I'm just talking about the actual information that he comes out with. And I just feel like he's kind of one of those guys that kind of ran out of things to say and things to do without being repetitive, so just kind of started saying and doing anything, and it's probably spoiled his reputation a bit with a lot of people, including myself, as a strongman athlete, like world class. Genuinely one of the strongest guys to ever live, and his deadlift when he done it was absolutely amazing. I don't think he's somebody you're going to get massive amounts of good training advice from. You'll get some. On the whole, I think he'll just talk a whole load of rubbish, and what was highlighted in the whole Coach Greg and him beef that didn't really go anywhere because he got absolutely destroyed because he made an arse of himself in that one video and couldn't actually work out basic maths. You can go and watch some of those videos, they are quite entertaining, but as far as him goes, he is getting killed. The next suggestion is James Smith. Now, I've got a little bit of a bone of contention with him, because if you follow both him and myself on Instagram, then you may have picked up the little rant that I went on recently on my stories about something he said, and I didn't name him, but I'm going to talk about it here. In the context of him doing a talk at one of these events where he helps people run their fitness businesses, he said you don't need to have a sales call, or what I would call a consultation call, with someone, because all you're doing is giving them macros and giving them a training plan. Now, any half decent coach will know that that couldn't be further from the truth. When you coach someone, you're not just simply giving them a training plan and macro plan. Like, it goes so far beyond that if you're coaching something properly. And what that tells me is the way that he probably used to coach people is that he would just give them a training plan and macro plan, probably not have much contact with them and form a good relationship with them. I don't know, but I'm just forming this from what he just quite flippantly said on a stage in front of hundreds of people. And it makes me start to think that he may have some actual limitations as a coach if all he's saying is he used to do is give training plans and meal plans as flippantly as that. Well, all his content is pretty much just talking about a calorie deficit and using holes and buckets to explain it. For that reason, I'll put him in the shag category. I'm not going to kill him, but I will shag him. Someone who I've already mentioned in the video so far, Coach Greg, and he is a comfortable marry for me, and I know he is very polarising and divisive, and a lot of people don't agree with a lot of his takes, and he is very just brazen, and he is good at riling people up. However, in terms of information he gives out and his philosophies on training and dieting, it pretty much goes hand in hand with what I believe. So I think he is definitely somebody who you should be marrying and listening to and getting a good amount of your training advice from. Somebody's actually just answered for me, kill Bradley Martin. He's 260 though. The thing about Bradley Martin is, right, I very much just view him as an influencer. I don't see him as a coach. I don't see him as somebody you should probably get a lot of training knowledge from. However, there is no denying he is a big, strong fucking guy, and he's quite clearly done a lot of the right stuff to get to the level he's at. However, a lot of what he has done is going to be copious amounts of steroids. He's obviously a very successful guy at this point, but I've always felt like he's somebody that tries too hard to be cool and to be liked. It's why he comes out with just so much outrageous stuff, and even if it's not like anything massively serious, but even like him going on and saying about how he'd batter all these guys because he's just so much bigger, and I understand that it comes to a point where somebody is just too big, can't really take to him, and I just think that like he just tries to be cool and like hanging out with like all like the Nelt boys and the OnlyFans models and stuff like that. And it wouldn't surprise me to know that he was just like a bit of a geek when he was younger, and then just got absolutely massive, ended up getting a wee bit of a social media following, and then just sort of became cool from there, if that makes sense. But I wouldn't have killed him, but since you've already said that, I suppose he's getting killed. Somebody was bound to have suggested this, which is Nick Hizajak, my arch nemesis, the guy who I've made more videos on than anyone and called out his absolute garbage advice. And it might surprise you to hear that I was actually not going to put him in the kill category. From what I see of his actual training, I don't think it's actually too terrible, and from what I see on my page, because the algorithm just feeds me stuff all the time now, unfortunately, I've found that his like training's kind of went the same way as his diet did, where he's just doing like more and more extreme stuff, becoming a parody of itself like his bulk did. And I was just going to try and show that I wasn't petty and I could actually just like see the good in him. However, a recent video has come to my attention of what he's made again, and it's just triggered me to fuck, and it just puts him back firmly in the kill category. And the reason that he does piss me off so much is because, albeit he calls himself a natural bodybuilder, he doesn't go on stage, he lifts very heavy, and the way I see it, we are very much aiming our content towards the sort of same niche of people and guys who want to lift strong, and that doesn't make sense, does it? And have a good physique, but his whole philosophy just couldn't be any more different from mine. And I think just to prove who is quote unquote right or wrong, you just need to look at how many results are on his page and how many results are on my page. So last few, and the first one is David Lade. Now, when you are a fake natty, you always just lose those points off the top from me straight away, and I just can't take you seriously, because if you're going to lie about that, who else knows what you're going to lie about? And he's obviously been about for years and years and years. Very good physique. I think he's a pretty strong guy. Don't listen to anything that he says, because again, if you're just going to blatantly lie about taking steroids just for the sake of earning a few quid, then you've quite clearly got no integrity, and I ain't got any interest in listening to you. So he's kind of got to go to kill by default, and again, I know he's maybe not as popular as he once was, like back in the day. Maybe he's changed his tune, maybe he talks about it, I don't know. I just can't really be arsed with him. And last but not least is Will Tennyson, who is the talk of the town just now because he done his first bodybuilding show and looked absolutely class. It's not somebody who I watch a lot of, but I can't really say that I've ever seen anything bad from him. He's not ever getting himself wrapped up in controversy or saying something stupid. I think he's mostly kind of limited to selling programs and stuff like that. I don't really think he actually coaches people. From his training advice that I have seen, I think it's all pretty decent. What he's produced on stage as well is quite clearly a very top flipping level natural physique, especially in his first tournament as well. I know people were saying like, oh, he just won because he's profile and this and that, but from the pictures I've seen and the people he was up against, he won hands down, absolute no-brainer. So I suppose we'll just had him hitting the Mary category. And that's it, obviously not too many to go over, but knowing me, this will turn into like a flipping 20-minute video, so I will leave it there, and obviously the only person you need to listen to is me, and do that by liking and subscribing and hitting the wee bell button. Follow me on Instagram as well, but obviously if you actually want the holy gospel of help and have me as your coach, you can hit the coaching inquiry form that's linked down below too. And if you're not quite ready to have a coach yet, then there is a little freebie down there too that you can have a look, and it can hopefully just give you a little bit of help in the meantime. An hour of YouTube recording, now time to get some reels done and then lift some heavy ass weights. So I will leave it there, catch you in the next one.